Everyone, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon to meet and learn more about Deidric Davis. I know you've seen his face around the last few weeks, and now we've got the whole person here. So Deidric is visiting us from Florida, and he's going to regale us with some of his backstory and kind of life as a science communicator and all the journeys along the way. And he will also let you know how good of a secret keeper I am at some point during this, because I've told no one. So Deidric, feel free to take it away. Thanks.
Alrighty. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I hope I'm loud enough. Alright, so as you guys can see from here, my name is Deidric Davis. I am a science communicator and marine ecologist. So far in my career, I've been proud to say I've done a lot. I've been very productive. This last year, I was an ASLO and AGU Emerging Fellow, where I got to go to Scotland and OSM and present some of my research. I mean, that was one of the coolest experiences of my life. I had never been to Europe before, and to see those many fried potatoes and the cows and everything, it was awesome. So I had a lot of fun. Before that, in 2024, I was a BIMS Tidal Wave Fellow, where I got to share my science with people that looked like me in San Diego. It was really cool just to have that kind of community and see different black and brown people in the marine science space. Before then, I was an Ocean X Young Explorer, where I got to go to Indonesia and travel from Jakarta to Bali on a research cruise. It was really cool. Got a chance to do live stream, science communication, and just to learn from that many different people. A multicultural crew was really awesome for me. In 2022, I was at Duke University Marine Conservation Scholar. That was one of my best friends of my life. I got a chance to work with Cindy Vandover and do some deep sea ecology, and it was it was essentially a study abroad at Duke, where I got the chance to leave my alma mater of Eckerd College to study at an R1 institution, which was great because more money, more resources, I got to do more work, which was really cool. And then I was an Eckerd Founding Scholar, so I got, based on my high school merit, I got a scholarship from my alma mater to study there, which was really cool. And yeah, next up in my career, I'm really excited to move into it, and I have a secret for you guys that I'm excited to share. I'm going to be starting my PhD at Stanford University. So yeah, this was a dream come true for me. It was my first institution I wanted to go to. I got in first try, which was awesome, but I had been planning to go here since my junior year of undergrad. I met someone at a conference, and they told me about how awesome the marine lab was and everything, and I was just, okay, let's do this. I'm a plan to get into here. So I went. I actually interviewed a couple weeks ago, and I got offered, a couple weeks ago, and they told me, yeah, you're in. I was super excited, super happy, and yeah, I was able to get the Dean's Graduate Scholar Award, which meant a whole lot to me because, as I say in my fun fact right here, I had a 3.0 GPA in college. There was times when I was insecure that my GPA wouldn't stand out with other people's, and a lot of people are fighting for 4.0s and 3.9s, all these different things, but for people to recognize who I am outside of just memorizing things was big for me. I think it shows that a good student isn't determined just by their grade point average, but by the impact of their work and how many people it affects. And so I wasn't always a Stanford student or a scientist at all. At one point I was just this kid. So as you can see in these pictures, there's a common theme here. You see a lot of critters, but you also see me getting eaten by a lot of critters. So here actually, that camel actually bit me on the back of my head. I think I was 9 at this time, and that's my little brother right there. I'm sure he's hearing a crunching sound, so he's looking back and wondering. But so for me, I've always been interested in ocean and animals, and it was just something that had always been with me, right? And you can see my mom had told me, she said, yeah, I took all these pictures of you doing this stuff because I knew you'd use it one day. Someday this would be good for your story, right? And so I'm glad she got there. I'm sitting there wow, I'm glad I'm in the digital age where people have cameras and they have all the things going on, because she was right on the money. I ended up doing exactly what she saw me doing, surfing. I didn't surf until I was an adult, but here I am as a kid, it's kind of just being shown. And yeah, and so I want to get a bit into my path and how I even got to where I'm at now. And so actually I was born in Orlando, Florida, but and we moved around a lot as a kid. So my parents had me in Orlando. And for probably about a month I was there. Then we moved to Texas. I was in Texas for about 4 or 5 years. Then my dad got another job, and we moved to Pennsylvania for 4 years. And then going from Pennsylvania, we came right back to Texas, and I was in Texas until I graduated high school. And then from Texas, I went to St. Petersburg for school and undergrad. And so one of the common themes in this was that I never was around the water really. I mean, we had a couple like dirty creeks like in Texas and a couple like man-made like reservoirs and things like that, but I never really saw the ocean. It was always something that I was interested in. I knew I was interested in it. And so my parents, I really appreciate them because they fostered that curiosity. I mean, you see the picture of me again, acting like I'm being eaten by a shark. And it's like they helped me out a lot with that aspect. And I want you guys to understand why I picked marine science. And I picked marine science because of science communication. Science communication kept me invested in this. I mean, being someone who wasn't near the ocean at all, I had to look at other things to keep me into this. So I remember the reason why I got into marine science was literally we went to SeaWorld San Antonio when I was probably 5 or 6, and I saw like I saw a hammerhead shark in there, probably a bonnethead. You know, I'm thinking it's this giant thing at the time because I'm so little, but it's chasing after like a wrasse, some type of small fish. And I think it's the coolest thing ever. It's the way its body's contorting, it's going here and there. I was like, whoa, what on earth is that? Like, I think that's so cool. I remember my mom saying, yeah, people who study that are like marine biologists, right? And that thing sat in my head throughout the rest of my life. It was marine biology, marine biology, marine biology. It was almost like I had like a fish on my shoulder. It wasn't an angel, but it was a fish on my shoulder just whispering marine biology in my ear for my entire life. So I went after it, right? And then, so when we ended up moving to Pennsylvania and everything, me and my dad would watch Shark Week every single year, right? So it was like a tradition. I knew it was coming out, like what time in the summer it was coming out, and we'd jump in there and watch it. I was super excited, and it's just these huge creatures. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I love this. It's so much fun. And I got a chance to really connect with my dad and with my mom on this kind of stuff when they grew up in Kansas. They don't know anything about the ocean, and we're just sitting there just amazed by these things on TV. And for me, I was even more amazed because, I'm not amazed, but I wanted to do this because I never really saw people that looked like me on Shark Week. And I said, okay, well, I want to be a dude that's black and doing this thing and out there on the boat catching these sharks and doing all that kind of stuff, right? And so then that moved me into more things I was interested in. So this book right here, Shark Wars, is actually, like it has some science facts in it, but it's more like a graphic novel, right? But I saw it and thought, wow, this blends a lot of my interests. So at the time, I'm interested in Ben 10, like Green Lantern, all these different shows on TV. And the dude who wrote this book, wrote episodes for Ben 10. I was like, oh, this is perfect. He's doing shark stuff, and I love Ben 10. This is gonna be sick. So my mom buys me the book. I read the whole series I read a lot of series as a kid, and I loved it. And I realized, okay, these sharks and these animals I love can be shown to tell fun stories too, not just the science stuff that I'm seeing, or just the real world aspect of it. And I ended up finishing like all those books as an undergrad, and I'm like, wow, this really got me to where I am and helped me to this point. And then after that, like River Monsters was huge for me too. Like Jeremy Wade, he's in there catching all these big fish, you know, using like his awesome British accent to, you know, make it all sound so cool and interesting. That was one of the coolest things for me because it helped me be connected. Like seeing him dive with oarfish and catching these giant catfish that are bigger than my head, and these giant stingrays. That was the coolest thing I could ever see, I mean, as a kid, and it just showed me that there was options, there were things out there. So when I'm sitting in Pennsylvania, snowed in, and can't see the water, it's just ice and sleet around, I'm like, okay, this is something that I can watch on reruns on, you know, back when we have DirecTV and we're able to record stuff. I'm watching all this kind of stuff, and it helps me stay connected to the ocean, even though I have no actual way to get to it. And then this book right here, there's a reason why I kept my hand in there, but my mom, when I showed her this, she thought it was just a bad cropping job. But this book I still have. It's called Discover Shark, and when you open it up, you literally just see a whole bunch of, I'm trying to think of the words right now. It's like a shark model in there. So you see the stomachs, you see the muscles. It's like literally a whole like model set in there. And being a little kid's interested in sharks, that's the coolest thing I could possibly have. I open it up and it shows like the ovaries of the shark, and then tells me about the reproductive system in the stomach, and then the jaws itself and the spinal cord, and that was the coolest thing ever. And in my mind, I thought, when my mom gave this to me, I'm like, this is the greatest gift I could ever receive. And so with that, I took all this interest and went into undergrad. During undergrad, I had a lot of fun. I did a lot of different kind of research. I did 3 different RUs, my first of which was with Duke University, and I was doing seagrass ecology, which was really cool. I'd never worked like for a school before, so it was my first actual experience just getting paid doing research, and I got paid like $6,000. I'm sitting there like, well, I can get actually paid for science. I'm not just going to class, you know, and paying the school. I'm getting paid for this, and that was really sick experience. I loved it a lot. I ended up working with UCLA, and in this picture up here, I'm actually scuba diving in French Polynesia on the island of Moorea, where we're doing coral reef ecology and looking at the coral heads and looking at the fish that are going in and out of them because of people coming near them. So that was a lot of fun. And then I went to UC Santa Barbara, where I'm holding, you guys have all seen this picture, but I'm holding a octopus that I found that clung to my little suit when I'm getting out of the water, and that was one of the coolest things ever, in the sea kelp forest. And then for me, I'm able to already see this early in my career, the difference between a seagrass like meadow and then coral reef and then kelp forest. So I had a good idea of what I wanted to do, but also the differences between the environments. This time, this research led to some awesome things for me, so it led to 3 different publications. This me up here in my SpongeBob shirt, I'm sitting there dissecting a deep sea fish that I found with my old advisor, Cindy Vandover. And with that, I got a primary published paper where I'm the primary author, and it's me describing 2 different species, and like they're pretty much them competing for resources in the bottom of the ocean. So like, what do they eat, and how they work with each other in doing that. And so with that, I was able to publish that paper, and I found parasites inside those fish and those crabs I was working with. And I was able to like discover 5 parasites before I even graduated undergrad. And I thought I was like the coolest person in the world. I was showing my family, and they're like, we have no idea what the hell this is, but that's cool that that's your name on it, whatever. And I was really proud of myself. I thought that I was doing awesome, and that the things I've always wanted to do as a kid were getting me here. Like, I told you guys how much I love sharks, and now here I am excited about these little tiny parasites from the bottom of the ocean. I never thought that these tiny things would invoke such emotion in me and make me so happy to do my job. And so yeah, I ended up getting 2 degrees, BS in marine science and a BA in animal studies, and ended up making 1 podcast. Also, this picture right here is me at Ocean X, and I'm in a submarine, and that was so awesome. I'd never been in a submarine before, and I'm just sitting there, as you see, wearing a Josh shirt. So it just all comes full circle with the sharks and the critters and everything. It's just my jam. And so I just mentioned a bit about the podcast. And so I do my podcast, Black Nerds Matter. And essentially, Black Nerds Matter is me interviewing different black and brown scientists throughout the world, and just having them share their stories and what they do and pretty much how they got to where they are in the world. I did this because I saw that black stories in science weren't often shared, and that when it comes to science, you kind of have to know somebody that knows somebody. I've been very fortunate to be good at speaking to people, and I think that I'm pretty funny, so people want to talk to me, and they're willing to put me in places that other people, they wouldn't put other people, because I'm willing to make that connection and go and talk to that person, have lunch with that person, and connect with that person on something. And I know not everyone has that ability or even knows the people to do that with, so this gives people that I interview an opportunity to share what got them there. So we talk about RUs there and grants and different things people can do to get into marine science, even if they came from a dry place like me, and almost makes like this audio catalog of advice from all these people. So we've had 30 people, and that's like over 30 hours of advice that people can get into marine science, whatever field that we're covering that day. And I've loved it, and pretty much how it started was I had met somebody, like I said, networking, knowing people, and he had brought me out to a think tank in Tampa where we were talking about like pollution in the community, like different things that are happening. And there was someone there from a radio station, and she was talking to me, and we were chatting it up, just chatting about science and about my career, because I was like the only person in college there. And she said, you know what, your story's really awesome. I run a radio station. Would you like to be interviewed? And I sit there, I'm like, well, hell yeah. And I want to be interviewed. I'd love to like talk about my story and everything. So we get there, we get to the radio station. I talk to her for about an hour, and she says, you know, you have a great voice and a great presence on the microphone for this kind of stuff. What do you think about starting a podcast? We have a podcast department here, and there's this guy here from Buffalo, this black dude from Buffalo, and he's interested in teaching a bunch of people of this stuff. And I said, okay, well, why not? Like, I'm here as my senior year. I want to go ahead and get this thing off the ground. I want to try this out. So I talked to him, and he teaches me everything I need to know. Teaches me how to edit the audio, how to brand myself, how to communicate and get people on the show, and even just to there's all the ins and outs of it, because I didn't know anything about that. Like, I'm a self-trained science communicator at this point, because when I went to school, I'm just studying fish. Don't know how to broadcast it. So he teaches me everything I need to know, and it was great. We ended up getting partnerships with an NGO called Future Swell, where we're doing some some stuff with them later this month. I ended up going to Black and Marine Science Week, and this is me talking about my podcast, wearing my outdated merch during 2024. This is at the radio station with my best friend, who is another Black marine scientist, and we were roommates in school. So it was like a moment for him as well. I mean, even when I had his episode come out, his mom came and hugged me at graduation and was like, "Thanks for sharing like my baby story," and she was crying and like all this kind of stuff. So for me, it was just wonderful to be able to highlight people's voices, especially people that I know and love, and I'm very grateful to have in my life. And yeah, so and then this last one's me at Dallas Aquarium with my new merchandise and all that things. So that's like this bag I got right here, and yeah, I'm showing it all off, you know, self-plug. And like the polo I'm wearing right now, like all these things, like we were able to actually design some things. I was able to design this stuff myself, commission an artist to pay for it, and the artist to design this, and the artist was someone I actually interviewed on my show. So it's just able to make all these connections with people and for myself and for other people. So yeah, I mean, it's been one of the best things, and I want to, now on talking about SciComm, I want to talk about what is SciComm. And for me, SciComm is like breaking a story down, well, telling a story by breaking down science to its simplest parts. I think the most important thing about science is that we're doing it to explain something, right? But we have to be good at explaining that something to someone who didn't study for, you know, X amount of years that we've studied. And so for me, I think science communication can be anything, whether it's pictures, videos, blogs, presentations. It can be a podcast like I'm doing, art, or games. But I think the simplest and almost the most pure form of science communication is just having a conversation. My grandpa told me literally like last month, he said, you know, the cheapest thing in the world is conversation. And we spend all this money on gear and going on these expeditions and everything else that we do, but our best tool is something free. We can just talk to somebody on the street about what we're doing. Talk to someone at the grocery store, talk to our mom and our dad about this kind of stuff. And that's a good way to just make sure that our work has some kind of impact and people understand what's going on, because not everyone's going to go to a journal or make a presentation like I'm doing now. Like, not everyone's going to be there for that stuff, but if we can just share it with people in our circles, it's a good way to get the word out there and have people understand what's happening. And for me, like, one of the most important parts is it being audience focused, and it being intentional. And you want to bridge a gap in some kind of way where they understand this, you want to make them bring their understanding to this level. Or even in a facility, some type of need, and it's engaging, and that it's very fun, because at the end of the day, we love this stuff, and so many of you guys I met love the work you're doing so much, and it makes me so excited to be here. And I'm excited, and I want to learn more because you're excited, and that's the biggest part of it, is how can I convince you to care about this, or give money to this, or even acknowledge this thing exists if I don't care about it myself. Like, you have to be that change you want to see, and that's something that I really try to do. And so with that, I actually have an activity for you guys. So I want some people to raise their hands. It's how would you explain your scientific focus to a middle school kid? And for me, I'll go first, so there's some type of example. But for me, I'm a trophic ecologist, and I'll explain it to a kid by saying, I like to study things eating other things. So when you see a shark on Shark Week going after a seal, I study why it's going after that seal instead of the hundreds of other fish that are swimming around. So that's how I do it. So does anyone want to give a run at it?